All right. Hello, everybody. Let me move that up a little bit. How we doing on YouTube? How we doing on Facebook? How we doing all over the place? Let me get myself set up over here and we will go live. Can you build muscle without losing fat? The $1,000,000 question that you've been asking yourself. Can you build muscle and burn fat at the same time? So, hello. I don't know why I put that voice on, but hello, everybody. How we doing today? Hello, hello, hello. And one of the things that, as everybody's trickling in over here on YouTube and on Instagram, we do these Monday mindset, kind of Monday thought processes. And if you heard my stories today, you might have saw kind of the idea lens that, kind of getting the centralized topic for today. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you, let me know how everybody's doing on this wonderful Steeler Victory Monday. Steelers win, which was a great game. If anybody's in here from Pittsburgh. But yeah, besides the point is I think a lot of times I get these messages over and over and over and over and over again. Nick, oh my gosh, how do I do this? How do I do that? What's going on? But one of the messages that I think I always get more than anything is, can you actually build muscle while losing fat? Right. And sometimes I think a lot of times people think that these are like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Right. I think a lot of times when people go into a fitness journey, we go into automatically going straight into fat burning stage. Here we go again with this damn connection. Hold on for a second. I gotta get a new router. This internet is horrible. This internet is horrible anymore. It's like it never fails. I always bitch about this, but every time I go live, my internet just totally shits the brick. And that's always the time whenever it's sending the message out to everybody to come that we're live. It never fails. It's like they want to work against me. But I think we always kind of go into this trap, right? Of like getting into a fitness journey and we're like, most of the time we get in there, it's like, I want to lose a couple pounds. I want to lose a couple pounds of fat. I want to get rid of maybe my little spare tire. Maybe I want to lose some of the thighs. Maybe I want to lose some of my arms, right? We always go into this mindset of losing fat, right? But what if we were to switch it and go to, instead of losing something, why not adding something? Like adding muscle. So that's why we're here today talking about, can you actually build muscle without losing fat? And if you looked in my stories, I wanted you to show that you actually can, right? One of my clients right now who is absolutely killing it, she's losing 15 pounds plus gaining 2 to 3 pounds of lean muscle per month. How is she doing it? Well, we're about to get into this. So I know a lot of times whenever we get in there, can you actually do it? And yes, you can, right? And the reason is very simple. Well, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's very simple, but it starts at your starting point, right? Everybody starts at a different, like we all have a different, like if you think of it as a track, right? I always make this analogy with my clients is like, if you think you're in track, right? We're all running the same race, but everybody starts, like there's a starting person here. You go a couple feet back. There's somebody that starts over here, and it's all around the circle, right? It's around the mat, the whatever you're actually running on, right? If it's the track, if it's wherever. But everybody's starting in a different place, but we're all starting for a particular goal, which is to run the race, whether it's 400, whatever. And so I want you to think everybody's going to have a different starting point. And so that is the very first thing is that you have to realize is that we do have a starting point. Where is it? Okay. Now, what is our nutrition like? All right, let's dial that in. What is our training like? Okay. But everybody says like, well, how do you do that if we all have a different starting point? How do we do that if my nutrition isn't on point? How do we do that if my exercises aren't on point? Well, it's very simple. Whenever you are in a calorie deficit, right? We always want to say, calorie deficit this, calorie deficit that. But you have to think of it in a couple different ways. So a calorie deficit is going to lose overall mass, right? Overall, including muscle and fat, right? And just metabolic tissue. So you're losing overall mass, right? And so whenever we're trying to specifically lose fat mass, that means we have to persevere and save the muscle that we already have, right? Because we want to actually build upon the skeletal muscle, right? lean body mass, skeletal muscle, very similar in regards, but two different aspects, right? Because you can only build the lean body mass as long as you have skeletal muscle attached to the bone. So skeletal muscle is the muscle that is attached to the bone, right? And so I want you to think that is where we want to, that's where we want to build. That's what I want you to think of. So if you're in this, how can I really burn fat and gain muscle at the same time? Yes, we just got to switch the mindset to actually wanting to build muscle rather than burn fat, if that makes sense. So if we go into this journey thinking, okay, I'm going to build some muscle. And in the process, I'm going to burn fat. And if you can go through it with this lens, right, at that starting point, this is where you're going to start to see basically the most metabolic change, because now you're not focusing on just burning fat. You're actually trying to build muscle. And then we'll get to it of why that's important, because when you build muscle, you get into what is building more metabolic tissue, right? So the more muscle you have, believe it or not, the more calories you burn at rest. And so a lot of times when people start training, and like you start into an exercise routine, you lose a lot of weight. Like a lot of times I see this in my clients. I'll put them on a calorie deficit. We'll start eating a little bit better, start doing a little bit of strength training, and they're down like 8-10 pounds in a month. And it's like, holy shit, right? And they're like, Nick, this is great. But then it stalls off, right? We always call that like the newbie gains, right? But it's just body recomposition. It's your body really just trying to realize, like, all right, we're burning fat, we're doing this, who is this person, right? You're actually making into a new habit, you're getting yourself fired up. And again, if you could sit there and get past that initial first gain and realize that, okay, this is the start, and then you keep going. The problem is a lot of times when people get that first newbie gain of 10 pounds, 15 pounds weight loss, they stop and they think, oh, this is it. It's going to keep going. That's why we're always losing the same 5 to 10 pounds year in, year out. You know, it's the same 5 to 10 pounds. Why am I not making any progress? It's because when we start to see a little bit of gains, we stop because we want to focus on fat loss. So this is why I want you to start switching that mindset to start focusing on muscle gain rather than fat loss. And this is how we're going to do it, right? So we're going to focus on nutrition. So every time when I think, you know, the only way you can actually ever lose weight is if you're in a calorie deficit, right? And that's why it's so important to know your macros, your basal metabolic rate, and I gotta get these adjusted. They keep falling down my face. But you have to know your numbers, right? And that's why people who are taking part of the challenge, if anybody's in here that's taking part of the challenge, I think I saw you in there, Rolly, maybe Debbie, if you're in here, is why I encourage the very first thing that we're doing right now is just tracking our food. What are we actually eating? Because you can't make the changes if you're trying to lose fat if you don't know how many calories you're actually eating in a daily basis, right? How are you actually going to make the changes if you don't know what changes you need to make, right? Now you're just pulling stuff out of the air. Let's do this ideally. So the most important factor is going to be nutrition, right? Because how you balance the calorie intake and how you balance your calorie deficit and your protein consumption among everything else is what's going to be the driving force to, are you building muscle or are you losing fat? Are you losing fat and are you losing muscle, right? Because if you're losing fat and you're losing muscle, that shows that you're not eating enough. And so that's your first thing you got to really think of is, am I eating enough, right? Because everybody, like I said, we'll get those newbie gains where we'll start at the very beginning and it's just like, this is working. It's easy. You know, and you realize that we're not trying to, and I know a lot of the audience is over 40, right? Over 40 women. And so after we get into 40s, what ends up happening is we lose 5 to 8% of our muscle mass by the time we're 50. Now, I say we, but as humans, women do it a little bit more because of hormonal issues. Men have a chance to hold on to it a little bit more, but women, it is equally important, and I see this with so many clients, is that we're so fixated on running cardio to burn said fat, right? And so when we burn said cardio and we're going cardio, we're burning actual muscle as well. So we're burning muscle tissue because we're in a calorie deficit, we're in a weight, and let me know in the chat if this is something you ever had happen to you, is that you're eating in a calorie deficit, you're doing hours and hours and hours of fucking cardio, and you're not doing any strength training. And then next thing you know, yes, you're losing weight, but you're also losing muscle because your muscle is getting burned to give your body fuel so you can get up and wake up the next day, because you're not actually replenishing it with actual calories that you need, right? And so a lot of us, we make this mistake where we think we're doing everything right, but nothing is changing. It's because we're in a catabolic state rather than an anabolic state. Yes, we can, that's a whole nother live stream, anabolic resistance and all that other stuff. But what we're really focused on is making sure that the muscle that we have is actually being metabolically active. That's going to be your very first thing that you really need to do. I know I always say there's the very first thing, but we have to make sure that your muscle that you have is the metabolically active, and we got to save and persevere and preserve the stuff that we already have. So how we do that, everybody always, the big buzzword, eat protein, protein this, protein that. Yes, that is true. But I want you to think, what is there a number? You hear, even when I was in college, as I exercise, some people might not even know this, but I am an exercise physiologist, went to school for exercise physiology at the university. I just don't make videos. I actually coach and help people. Is that when we were in school, we were always brought up with the 8 to 1.2, 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, right? It's kilograms when we're doing science, not pounds. Us Americans, we always think everything's pounds. Everything is, why is it not pounds? No, it's actually kilos. So when we think about that, we have to realize that, 0.8 to 1.2 is the idea. But nobody's ever going through the, 2.2, dividing your weight, nobody's doing that. Americans, we're lazy, right? We just want the numbers. So in research is now shown, has been proven, is that you actually want to have the same number, like say your ideal goal weight. So say we're sitting at 180 right now and you want to get to 160. Well, you should eat 160 grams of protein. That should be your goal, right? That should be the one, right? And so if you could just make it that simple, it's something to easily attain, and therefore you're going to be able to hold on to the muscle that you have while you're burning fat. Because if you could do that, you're fueling your muscle, you're fueling it for repair, and you're actually getting yourself out of that catabolic state and getting yourself into an anabolic state where you're actually going to be able to grow more skeletal muscle that is all on the bone, right? And that is very, very important. And that's something that very simple we can do, right? Oh, Jenny, what you say? All this, I hit my goal weight and then started focusing on strength training, 5 pounds back on, but looks much leaner. And that's what's always crazy, right? I'm dealing with a client right now. He said the same thing. He was like, Nick, we got him down. He actually just lost 15 pounds in the last, it was 4 months. But then he's like, Nick, I'm gaining weight. But I also showed him, I was like, but look on the lean body mass, that's also going up too. He's like, you know what? I never really thought about that. And so if you're gaining 2 pounds of muscle, but you're also losing 2 pounds of fat, I'll take that any fucking day. I mean, let's be real. And especially after we get after 40, it's even harder and harder and harder. And that's why, you're hearing so much about protein, right? And protein this, protein that, protein this. It's always been there. It's always been like that. It's just now, if you look at where the state of our population is, we are going to be in the next, by 2030. I'm in Pittsburgh. I live in Pittsburgh. Obviously, you might be able to tell the healthy Yinzer, right? Pittsburgh. Is that our population is going to be majority over 60 here by 2030. Think about that. The majority of the population by 2030 is going to be over 60. So what's that mean? That means we're going to be losing a lot of muscle mass here from now to then if you don't fucking do something about it, right? And so what can we do, right? Nick, okay, I get it. What can we do? Resistance training, right? Very simple. You have a body, if it's able, and you could do body weight stuff, right? Or yoga or Pilates. Now, the difference is sometimes people think you could just show up to a yoga class and just keep doing yoga and that's going to keep yourself healthy, which it will, but you also got to realize that yoga isn't there. There's no real progressive overload in yoga, right? So you're going to get lean, you're going to get a nice body, but you're just going to stay kind of the same way. You're just going to strengthen the muscle. You're not going to actually build more muscle. You're going to keep and just kind of lean out the muscle you have. It's not the worst thing, but we want to build a little bit more muscle. So that's why we got to add yoga to resistance training. So resistance training, everybody's always like, It's always weird. I don't know who told you this. A lot of women that are in the audience, but a lot of my clients who are women, the first thing they always say is, Nick, I don't want to lift that weight. That's, I'm going to get bulky. I don't want to be all ripped. I don't want to look like this. I don't want to look like that. I don't want to be all big. It's be, can you do those floor exercises? Oh, 100%, Lisa. That's whenever I was doing mine whenever I had my ankle injury. I was doing all my stuff on the bed. Now, it wasn't the greatest, right? Because you also got to sleep on it and you don't want to get all sweaty and have your bed stinking, so you just got to make sure that you, you do the little things because you're exercising. But every one of my clients, I think, has always said, Nick, I just don't want to get bulky doing these weights. And it's always that misconception. I don't know who told us that or who lied to us, but it's that misconception that, we think that resistance training, we're going to turn into the Hulk or we're going to turn into Mr. Olympia. You know what I mean? And it just does not work like that. I want you to start thinking resistance training so that you can I don't know why keep saying persevere, preserve the muscle. Can you build muscle with Pilates? 100%, right? But it comes into the same thing. If you ever Google, you could Google search right now, Joseph Pilates, maybe after the stream, but after the stream, Google Joseph Pilates and look at him. He only ever did his Pilates method, right? He never lifted a weight. He never did any of that. He only did his Pilates method and he had pretty decent muscles, right? I always say like I have a pretty strong core because of Pilates, but I mean, I'm a chef and I like to eat. I'm not going to lie. So I don't have the, I think I'm sitting right now at like 15.5% body fat. I still got some, so I store a little bit here. I store a little bit here. I'm not looking for anything sub 14, to be honest, because I've been there and I don't like that. It's miserable. Everybody always thinks, oh, you got to be like these low body fat percentages those people are often the fucking most miserable people. You know how I know? Because I know many of them that are sitting there with single digit body fat. They can tell you how many calories are in a damn Skittle, right? And I don't want to live that life. Yes, I'm a trainer. Yes, I'm a physiologist, but guess what? That's not me. That's not what I want to do. I like to live a little bit. You know what I mean? I love a cheesecake. I'm a chef. Like I told you, I was going to be a pastry chef all these years ago. So you ain't taking that away from me. It's in moderation. So the thing is like, yes, and to get back to what you were saying, Lisa, yes, you should change the sheets or whatever, but make sure that you are doing something, that you have the bands, you have body weight, you have a strap, whatever. I have like these ones right here, these little super bands. So these are like a little bit bigger than the ones that I always talk about. But these ones are good because, let me bring this down. So like, I don't know if you've ever seen these super bands before, but like you could step on them and then like, do stuff like this, doing like little curls with the super band. You can bring it up like on your shoulders and do stuff like this, right? You could do presses with this. You could do a lot of stuff with just like these big bands. So this is something, if you don't have weights, you do resistance, right? There's something. You have your kettlebells. You have different things that you can do for resistance. But using that is like, what is actually resistance? It's I can't even speak right now. It's tension, right? You want metabolic and mechanical tension. If we look at a muscle that's like this, every time we work out, we're stretching it all the way out. We're stretching it all the way out. And then we rest, and then it comes back together. Then we do another set, and we're just ripping and tearing these muscles all apart. Well, you have to repair that muscle, right? How do you repair that muscle? You throw protein at it to help repair. So that's why it's very important that if you're working out, you're doing resistance training, you need the protein to help repair it. But that's not just, that's not it, right? We still need to do more. We also need to do progressive overload, like I was talking about with yoga, right? What exercise that reduce the size of the butt? The butt, Lisa, that's going to have to go from the calorie deficit, right? But also doing exercises. So, and it goes into what we're talking about right here with the progressive overload, right? Is like, if you're not progressively overloading the muscle, the body is very smart. It knows we've done 15 reps of this before. We've been here. We've done this. And so, what it's going to do? It's going to adapt to it. So there's something called the specific adaptations upon imposed demands. And what that's called the SAID principle, SAID. The SAID principle states that every time that you do a new exercise or you do something on it, your body it sends a signal to your head and says, oh, what is this? This is something new. And then over time, it gets conditioned to that strain. Therefore, that is how you actually get stronger over time. That's actually a good thing, right? And so it's important that if you start, right, I always say with the simple thing, if you're doing progressive overload, and this is progressive overload is a whole nother live stream in a nutshell. But essentially, when you're doing progressive overload, you have to realize that you always go for duration of your reps rather than increasing the weight. And what I mean by that is like, so say you do 12 reps of something specific, like, just like a simple shoulder press, and you're always doing 12 reps. Well, that's the reason why you're never getting stronger, because your body is adapted to it. But if you do 12 reps for 2 weeks, the third week you do 15, the fourth week you do 20, and then the fifth week you raise the weight, you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because you're adding more metabolic tension to the muscles, mechanical tension as well. Therefore, you get stronger, right? It's very simple in progressive overload. So that's like, if you're only doing cardio, you never have a chance to do that. Yes, cardio is great for your heart, metabolic, all that stuff. But when we're trying to build strength in muscle, cardio isn't necessarily the thing that's going to help us get there, because it's actually going to eat away at our muscle for energy, And again, there's a lot. That's why there's so much to this, right? That's why it's so hard for people who are trying to figure this out on their own. And this is why I do these live streams, right? Is to try to educate you on a little bit and start to really get you into a place where it's like, okay, start taking control of your health, right? And so on the flip side exercises and proper eating help you with the flat butt like mine used to be. Oh, Jenny. The old dead butt syndrome, right? That's one of my, I couldn't believe that video went viral for me. I had 2 million views off a dead butt syndrome video. But that's such a true thing, right? Is that we sit for so long, we get in our car for so long that we don't realize that our glutes even need to work, which is, again, if we're talking about metabolically functional muscle, your glute is your biggest muscle, right? And your biggest muscle group. So if nobody wants a dead butt, right? So if you make sure that is metabolically active and going, holy shit, you're really, you start to actually burn more calories at rest, the EPOC, and you start to feel a little bit better about yourself. There's something in your body right under your calf called your soleus. So your soleus is what stabilizes your body. And it is the only muscle that never rests. Believe that or not. It's the only muscle that does not rest. It is always going. It is always firing. It never takes a break. And so if you think about that, there's a muscle in your body that never takes a break. So they did a study about this whenever I was in college, and then it just actually happened not too long ago, a couple years ago, with the University of Texas, is that they wanted to see if they can stimulate, and you do soleus raises. So I'll tell you what a soleus raise. So if you're basically on a wall sit, like so, and then you're just doing these calf raises like this. Now you could do this if you're sitting at your desk, if you're sitting down at your desk. Somebody who's, it's almost like restless leg syndrome, but if you're able to do like this is a soleus raise. The reason why this is a soleus raise and not a calf raise is because when you stand up, this is a calf raise. When you sit down, it turns your calf off, and it's now your soleus. But what they've said is, what they found was if you do, it was like 300 or some soleus raises in a day, it was actually just as effective as insulin in regulating people's insulin levels or their glycogen levels for prediabetes. And so if you think about that, there's a muscle. Why? Because muscle was always burning. It's burning calories, burning sugar. And so it was able to help metabolically, internally, help people who had prediabetes rather than stabbing themselves with a bunch of insulin. So they actually didn't have to put in as much insulin because, as you may know, my cat is diabetic. So what I'm trying to do, her is going to be, I wish she was doing these damn soleus raises. And you could look it up too. Soleus raises, it was a couple years ago, like you started seeing people on TikTok. This is before I was even making content. I was like, look at these dumbasses. But Oh, what you say right there, Lisa? I was so active in high school and was always focused on my legs and butt, just throwing shot put. Oh, shot put's a lot of power too. Yeah, so you need that. Jenny, gonna incorporate into my work that honestly, like, and it's the restless people. Some people say restless leg syndrome, but if you do that, it actually metabolically, and if you track it, right? Because that's why I have an Apple Watch. That's why I have these whoops, is because I don't have a lab, right? As an exercise scientist, I have to study stuff kind of like on myself before. And I know it sounds weird to say, but like I have to put myself through these studies to see, does this work? How does this work for me? Because I can't I can't specifically, you can barely hear me. What's going on? So I can't specifically actually tell a client or somebody to do said thing if I've never experienced it or if I've never seen and done it with a client themselves. Right. So it's like, how can I give recommendations if I've never seen anything in science? I've never read a paper, I've never done, or I've never seen one of my clients and actually have anything from it. So I always like to say is like, you got to put yourself through these tests essentially. And so to see what works. So if you do your soleus raises, I would be curious to see how many calories you burn, your basal metabolic rate. So maybe you do that for a week. You have restless leg syndrome. Yeah. So like you're burning more calories at rest, right? When you think about it. But then we could talk about this all day long. But one of the things that I really want to say, the overlooked, the main, because I can talk about restless leg syndrome, get me off track, is to kind of put us, spin us back. And we have two more things to really talk about, is recovery. It's the one thing people don't want to hear whenever they like that. Like if you still can't hear me, it's the one thing people don't want to hear when they're on a exercise journey or a weight loss journey. Take a fucking day off, right? Coming from a coach, you can't work and this, I mean, I got to take my own advice for this, but like for working wise, take a day off, right? Because if we're trying to build muscle and we're trying to burn fat and we're trying to actively be in some sort of health where we're focusing on our health, whenever you're doing exercise, you're not actually building muscle, right? You're tearing muscle, like we were talking about. The only time you really build that muscle is whenever you're resting, sleeping, resting, more specifically, sleeping, right? Like 7 hours of sleep. If you're on a health journey, that is going to be the biggest game changer that you can ever do. Better than any Ozempic, anything is going to be getting adequate sleep. Because if you can master your sleep schedule and you're working out, you're eating right, you're doing your stuff, you're doing your walks, you're getting your steps in, and maybe you're not seeing the results that you want right now specifically, but if you keep showing up and doing it day in and day out, there's going to be one day where you turn up and be like, wait, I lost how many pounds? I lost 15 pounds? I lost 16 pounds? How the hell did this happen? And it's because you showed up a day in, day out, did the mundane, right? Because success is laid in the mundane tasks, is what nobody ever really likes to do, including myself. But we have to do the mundane things. One of the easiest cost effective, if you think about it, is sleep. Can you sleep, right? Can you actually get 7 hours of sleep? Because that's where you're going to build the muscle, right? And not only just sleep, but making sure you at least have 1 to 2 days of rest, right? In the weekend, that is so important. Unless you're going to be, what are we doing, right? And make sure that you have active, and I always say, well, what is recovery, right? So you have two different sets. You have two, I don't always say, science says it. You have active recovery and then you have passive recovery, right? So active recovery is like you going for a walk, you doing massage gun, you doing sometimes yoga, Pilates at light, low heart rate intensities. These are going to be active recovery. These are what's going to help build build blood flow to the area, to the muscle, to these places that are sore. Because people, if you don't know this already, blood heals. So if you can get blood flow, is a recovery day necessary? 100%, 100%, 100%, Jenny. I assume that because it was different types of work on a different day, it was fine. So it is, but I bet you if you started adding a recovery day, you would start to see better gains, like more like longer term gains, or like more noticeable gains, as I should say that. Because even though if you are doing different workouts and you're doing, because me, I like to box, I like to do Pilates, I like to do yoga, I like to do all these things. And whenever I start to know that I'm doing too much is whenever I start to feel like like my hip, I start to feel a lot of like, it's like my body's like telling me like even yesterday when we were doing the yoga classes, I was like, oh wow, I got to stay away from the lateral side bends because I've been doing this too much, whether it's the rotation, from punching, kicking, whatever it is that you have to realize that you need to rest because muscle is built during the rest, right? And so if you're getting adequate protein, you're getting adequate nutrition, you could get away with it. But I don't think I don't think it's something. I really feel like, I mean, when I look at some, even the athletes that I work with, right? I work with JT. He has 2 rest days on the weekend, right? Monday through Friday, he's kicking ass, but on the Saturday and Sunday, he's resting. Do you think it's feasible to build muscle mass at home with a set of adjustable dumbbells? Hell yeah. Instead of going to the gym, hell yeah, princess. And the reason why, too, right, is the reason why it's important to do that is because it gives you a place to start, right? Now, me, I only ever do home workouts. Yes, I'll go to the gym every once in a while, just to kind of spark it up a little bit. But like, I mean, I have adjustables from 10 all the way to 50. I have 30. I have kettlebells from 15 to 25. I got weights 8 to 10. I got bands, you name it, right? Is that there's so much that you can actually do. You don't need to go to the gym necessarily to build muscle, right? You just got to have the plan to build muscle. You just can't do the same weight over and over and over and over and over again and expect that you're going to build muscle. Because again, like we talked about, the said principle is that you're gonna get adapted to it, right? So you have to make sure that you're progressively overloading, and I'll save that for next week's mindset kind of topic. But all that doesn't like when you think of like, yes, okay, yes, you have to eat the protein, right? You have to eat adequate protein. Yes, we have to recover. Yes, we need to do resistance training and all that other stuff, nutrition, and does this even really work? And it does, but it all doesn't do. Oh yeah, you could definitely do it, princess. You just got to make sure that you put the time and effort into it. So I like that encouragement. See, this community is awesome. But what it really comes down to is that if you're not tracking any of it, what's the sense of even, like, how can you actually make the accurate representation that you're seeing gains or you're not seeing gains, right? Because burning fat and building muscle is possible. It takes time, yes, but you also have to realize, like, how are you tracking this, right? How are you actually tracking it? Because if you're not tracking it through, I got whether you have an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, whatever you're tracking on, a lot of times we track it based upon the scale, right? And unfortunately, unless you have one of those like really smart scales with the biometric impedance, which are still a 10% deviation, is that you might be losing weight and losing fat, but gaining muscle. And that, like Jenny, like you said, that number never changed, right? You actually gained 5 pounds, but you were actually gaining more muscle mass, right? And so, sometimes people will look at that and be discouraged and be like, fuck, I've been showing up and this is what the hell? But that's why I always say to my clients is progress photos, right? Take photos of yourself. I know it's always the hardest thing in the world, but take photos of yourself, because we are also, and this is what I do for myself, is that it's so hard for me. I have to eat 3,500 calories a day, it says. I'm not doing that because I am too busy. And maybe one day, once I can get settled down and, hit the lottery or whatever, and then maybe I'll have that. But like for me, I feel like I'm always in a deficit, right? I'm always in a deficit. Doesn't matter if I have a high metabolism. It's always been like that since I was a child. Now, I don't know if that's from eating nothing but processed food and junk food for my whole life whenever I was a kid, growing up on food stamps and you name it. But hey, that's a whole nother story. But we also got to think of, yes, the scale is one way of looking at it, the Fitbit and the tracking, but how's our clothes feeling, right? Like, do we feel like, the shoulders are fitting a little bit better? Is it a little looser at the belly, right? Is the pants whenever you're putting your yoga pants on. I know we got a lot of ladies over here, and this one thing my girl, one of my clients always said to me was, she was like, Nick, like, I know I'm losing weight because whenever I'm bringing my pants up, I don't have to hike them all the way up. I can bring them up to my hips, right? And I think there's something to that, is that you show yourself that you're actually, there's progress. But maybe you jumped on the scale and you go, holy shit, like nothing's actually changed, right? I don't know, maybe you saw my photo a couple months ago, my one client. He had 8 bags of clothes that he had to throw out because he lost 45 pounds since March. 45 pounds since March. He's like, Nick, yes, I always wanted to do this, but I didn't realize I'd have to change my whole fucking wardrobe. He's like, that's like $10,000 worth of suits and, all the shit. But you got to give the get. I always say, right? You got to give the get. So one of the things that I always say is like, look, keep showing up, right? If you keep showing up and this is your goal, yes, you can lose fat and build muscle at the same time, but you also got to make sure that it's a strategic approach, right? And that's why I do these challenges, right? Last week I was promoting. I'm so glad I don't have to promote that challenge anymore. Holy shit. I hate doing the self-promotion stuff. Like, hey, I'm looking for this, because I feel so sleazy. I feel like I'm not like I'm selling snake oil. I'm selling transformations, but I just hate doing like self-promotion. It's always the worst. But, don't own a business if you're not trying to promote it, right? You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, what the hell are you doing, right? It's just like, I hate that. I don't know. That's something that I'm going to have to get over, but whatever. But it's like, one of the things is like, that's why I do those challenges, is so to teach people, this is how it can be done. This is a systematic way. This is how you do it. And I appreciate everybody that does reach out to me, all my clients, that maybe if I did have to be a salesman to you and be like, well, what's going on? I hate that, but it is what it is. But I always find to myself, like, if I know that I can help you and I have the tools and I know that I can help you, it's my obligation to let you know, right? Like, I'm going to reach out, and then it's up to you to take action, because I can't care about your goals more than you. But essentially, what is your favorite thing to do whenever you build muscle? Maybe, or for resistance training. Do you like resistance bands? Do you like the loop bands? Do you like the kettlebell? Do you like the dumbbells? Do you like barbells? Like, what is it that you like? And start to do it. Maybe you haven't liked any of it at this point. Maybe you're starting to just find a love for it. Maybe you're just starting to find a passion for resistance training. Well, the good thing is if you're watching my page and you're following me, we got a whole ton of workouts that you could do. Very simple at the house, with a loop band, with a resistance band. Tell you what, that one full body exercise that I posted, I was like, oh, this is such a good workout. It was a very good workout. But I saw that everybody dropped out it was an 8-second. Now, this was a quick one. So I was like, damn, everybody left my video at 8 seconds. What was going on at 8 seconds? Is because the first exercise was the plank to push up. So as soon as everybody saw plank to push up, they were like, oh, hell no, I'm not. Didn't even see the rest of the exercises. I thought that was funny as hell. So now I know, never start an exercise video for this audience with a plank to push up, because you guys are going to be like, Nick, I'm not doing that, right? So I get it. We'll go from the forearm. And it's such a great exercise. Forearm, the high plank, back to forearm. Like, you don't need to do push-ups. You just go boom, 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 boom. It's harder than it looks, and it's great. And I know you can do it. It's better than a regular push-up. But as soon as I put that on that video, people are like, peace. I ain't even... not even trying this. I'm like, damn. Heck no, I didn't drop out. Jenny, I appreciate, because Jenny, you're the OG, right? Jenny, you're the best. So let me know if you've done that exercise too, right? Because like, that's no joke. I don't even know if you can see me doing this over here, right? If I'm going down, like if you're over here on the high plank, I don't even know if you can see me, but it's like low, high, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is such a good upper body exercise and a core stability exercise that I'm determined to do it. I love it. Is that it's one of my favorites, right? And especially if we're working out from home, we got to challenge ourselves a little bit. And I don't know if you saw my story earlier today, where I had the torture of my guy on the slider, had 2 feet on the slider, and I had him walk with his hands all the way down and then push himself all the way back up. And we did that 3. It's not pretty. I'm trying. It's not pretty right now. Well, if you do it, make sure your legs are wider so you can stabilize yourself, and then do it. So don't try to do it in like with your legs together, because that will make it a lot harder. Give yourself stability. Down, down, up, up. Feel like a mime. in my next life, right? In my next life. But essentially, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. And unfortunately, every time I'm saving these live streams now, I don't know what the hell happened, but they erased all of my audio for the last, I think it was like the last 4. We were doing 3 live streams, 2 to 3 live streams a week for the better part of the last 3 months, and I would save them on my profile, and all the audio got erased. I don't know. Instagram did not like, I guess, what I had to say. I don't know what the hell was going on. Maybe it's because I was swearing. Who the hell knows? But they erased all of them. So lesson learned for me, make sure that we are streaming it to another profile. But how we're going to do that is we're going to be doing, I'm going to be saving all of my live streams that we do, all these Monday, Wednesday, Friday ones, onto my subscribers tab. So that encourage you, a little shameless plug, is that become a subscriber. It's $2.99 for the whole month. We have a bunch of good stuff that's going to be planned for the subscribers, like different challenges, different coaching, different live streams. I slowly have found, and out since you guys tuned into the live streams and you're my people, and we're live on Facebook and Instagram too, is that I want to make sure that I don't get bored of making the same content, right? And so I want to make sure that I never get burned out. So I'm going to come back and doing some different things here in the next couple of weeks, so that we're doing something different. And you let me know if we like it. If you don't like it, then we can kind of go back and keep trying some different things. So yeah, we're going to keep doing our live streams, but we're also going to be doing some series in the story, some more like kind of teaching type of things. 2 years ago, I used to do something called a mini series. It was like a Take Back Your Health mini series. Every day, or Monday through Friday, in my stories, what I would do is have like a specific topic, and then we just kind of talk about it right in the stories. Kind of like how we're doing now, but more or less just like 4 stories, and then, move on and do that every Monday through Friday. So we're going to try to bring that back. I've actually had some people message me, Nick, I liked when you did the heart health series and we were doing this. And so maybe we'll bring some of that back just to build some excitement. But yeah, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff here in the future. My goal, I'll put it out there. I'll put it out in the ether, is that I want to see if we can build this community to 100,000. It's even crazy saying that. If we can build it to 100,000 in the community by the end of the year. That is my goal. If we could do that, I'll be ecstatic. I always told myself if I could get to 10,000 people, I'd be ecstatic. And here we are. We have over 80. Even though it says my live stream only ever gets sent to 250 people out of 89,000, it doesn't seem right. But hey, what are we gonna do? Eventually, we'll get to everyone. But make sure that, and I'll tell you what, my core from yesterday doing the yoga class and the Pilates class is a little sore. So just know that if you show up and you keep doing it, you're gonna see the damn results, right? So let's just kind of do a quick recap, right? Is that the science behind fat burning and nutrition and building muscle and all that good stuff starts with proper nutrition, right? Starts with proper nutrition, making sure you're getting your carbs, making sure that you're getting your fats, making sure that you're getting your protein, right? Make sure that you're supporting both goals. Don't just do endless hours of cardio thinking that you're going to burn weight and burn sore from this session. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Don't be doing 100 hours of cardio week in and week out thinking this is going to help you burn fat. Well, guess what? It's not. It's actually eating away at the muscles that you want to hold on to, that you're having a tough time growing, to give yourself energy so that you can go on the next day. So make sure that you're not just spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours doing cardio, not getting anywhere, losing the same 5-10 pounds year after year. Start building some damn muscle so you can build some metabolic tissue that's going to help preserve a lot of what you got going on, right? And when you start doing that, Nick, what can I do? Not showing up to every damn cardio kickboxing class, right? That's still cardio. I want you to start lifting weights. Get yourself a set of dumbbells. I don't care what size they are. Just make sure that there are something resistance. Get yourself some resistance bands and go to my Amazon store that I have on my profile. And again, every purchase does help me out. I guess it gives me like $1 or $2. I don't know. But if you go to my Amazon store, we have a whole thing. My girlfriend curated a whole store for ladies that has like kind of lady women's type of fitness type of stuff. So definitely go on there. There's bands. You could get a whole home gym of bands, stability ball, a kettlebell, and some weights for like less than $100. So really, what the hell? What are we waiting for? Don't wait to New Year's. Don't wait to all that stuff. And realize that you have to recover, right, Jenny? I'm not calling you out, but I'm calling you out. Take a day off and do some active recovery. So I encourage you, maybe you take your day off Sunday whenever you're doing your yoga and Pilates class and use that as your workout, but realize that it's through the lens of active recovery. I talked about it earlier today about on my story again was about, it was a quote I heard on a podcast that said, I want you to look through every decision that you make through the next, maybe even today or tomorrow or even the next week and just maybe the next year, is look through the lens of, is this adding more to my plate or is this actually getting me closer to my goals? Is this adding more to my stressor? Is this adding more things that I have to do? Is this adding more to my shoulders? Or is this actually getting me closer to the place that I want to be? And for me, that hit me hard because I was like, holy shit. And I think everybody does this. We always do so much over the course of time when it's a fitness journey. Oh my God, I got to do this. I got to eat that. Oh my gosh, I got to track. And then we start spinning the wheels. But then we realize we're adding more to the plate rather than doing the stuff that is actually going to get us closer to the goals that we're trying to attain. I like the idea of Sunday is an active recovery day. Hell yeah. That's what I'm here for, right? That's what I'm here for. That's why we're doing this. But you also got to realize is that the muscle is built in the recovery, right? The muscle is built in your rest days. We're not bodybuilders. And the reason why bodybuilders can do 5-day splits is because they work individual muscle groups. They sit there for 2.5 hours doing nothing but fucking shoulder presses and lat raises, right? And rows. And we don't have time for that. That's not we're doing full body exercises because we might only have a half hour. And so with that being said, we have to spend the time to recover because even though we think we have the best plan, just give yourself some time to recover because you know that that's exactly how it's going to be. So now when it comes down to it, you need both, right? You need both. You need a little bit of resistance training. You need a little bit of cardio because cardiovascular disease and heart disease are the number one killer for women. Do you know that? Heart disease and cardiovascular disease are the number one killer for Americans in general. And the problem is, and we'll finish off with this, we'll give you a little scare tactic so you can take action, is that heart disease for women and a heart attack for men, two completely different symptoms. I think women, you've heard, or for men, you've heard, the arm goes numb, or, you could feel the heart attack coming on. For women, it could be a cramp. It could be a headache. My mom had a heart attack, a bad heart attack. She told me, she's like, Nick, I thought I was just having a headache. I was like, oh, I had a headache. And then when she stood up, boom, collapsed, right? And so and heart disease is the most preventable disease we possibly have, which makes it's why it's crazy is that it's the number one killer because it's the number one disease that we can prevent. How does that make any bit of sense? The number one thing that is killing us is also the number one thing that can be prevented. The only way we could do it is if we start focusing on ourselves today, we start focusing on ourselves tonight, and we start focusing on ourselves tomorrow. Because when it comes down to it, the healthcare industry, I'm in America, and guess what? I went to school at the University of Pittsburgh, UPMC, one of the best teaching hospitals in America, to be honest. And you know what they're doing over there? Preventative care. Preventative care. So meaning that, okay, you come in, we're going to prevent this disease from happening, but it's got to be diagnosed first. Once we diagnosed it, then we'll prevent everything else to happen. So you got to be proactive on your health. You got to be proactive. You got to be the one that says, I'm not waiting 6 months for a fucking health appointment and do this, because in 6 months I could be fucking dead, right? Hate to say it, but you never know. But in 6 months, there's a lot that you can do before you get to that health appointment. by getting 8,000 steps in, by doing resistance training, focusing on building muscle rather than losing fat, right? Just changing the mindsets over the course of the time, focusing on sleep, focusing on little things that by the time you get to that doctor's appointment or by the time you realize, like, wait, am I still dealing with the same shit that I'm, right? And like, whenever I brought the studies to the doctors at UPMC, we had a whole class of us, and we said, look, we found that exercise is actually a better antidepressant than the stuff that you're giving everybody right now. And they said, Nick, we understand, we hear you full-heartedly, but do you see that table right there? I was like, oh yeah, it's a brand new table. Do you see that imaging machine right there? I said, yeah, that's great. He says, the company that supplies us the pills pays for that, right? And so he was being real because he knows that when it comes down to it, he is getting a cutback. Your doctors are always getting a cutback for prescribing pills. And this isn't me saying like some conspiracy shit. This is the reality of it, right? And this is happening with vets, right? If you're seeing with your pet, you know, if you're starting to see your pet has diabetes and all these different health ailments that was never there 15, 20 years ago, it's because there's some incentive in there. There's money to be made in some of these diseases, right? So it's like, it's tough, right? It's so tough. You have a 13-year-old when he was little, somebody told me, if you love him, you'll take care of his mom. Hit me hard by oh man, that is tough. That is tough, right? And it's like, damn, if I want to help somebody else out, I got to take care of my own shit first, right? Now, a lot of times people think that that's selfish, but I'll tell you what, that is the most unselfish thing you could possibly do. And that's one of, like, I get so many people reaching out, Nick, I want to work with you. You're speaking everything to me. I feel like, you know, there's something about you that could really help me. Like you're the coach for me. And, you know, when we get into it, sometimes we get on a phone call or maybe we have a talk. They never talk to me again. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And the reason is because they said, Nick, you know, the reason I didn't reach out again was because I felt selfish focusing on myself in a coaching program. But then once you realize that if you can't take care of yourself, you have no business taking care of others, not even your damn dog, right? If your dog is overweight, chances are you're overweight because you ain't walking it. Like that. I mean, and that's just a harsh reality. Like, and it's sad, right? And so like, if we could just switch the little things over the course of time, the little things, we'll start to realize that focusing on ourselves isn't the worst thing, because if you ain't focusing on yourself, you can't focus on anybody else, and you can't give anybody else the attention that they actually deserve. If you ain't focusing on your mental and yourself and your health and being proactive, and you got kids, what the hell? Because guess what? They're going to see you. And this is why I encourage all my in-person clients. Because if you don't know, I'm an online coach and an in-person coach, which I thought I can just seamlessly put them together. But however, I'm finding out that this is a whole nother world. It's two businesses I'm running right now: online coaching and in-person coaching. But my in-person clients, I always encourage, get your kids down here. Come on. I know it's 6 a.m. Bring your fucking kids down here, because if they see you working out, they're going to want to do it. And if they do it, they're going to build the habits now that over in the next 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to thank me. Well, I never really say that, but you're going to thank me that they showed up for this, because this is now you giving them life, giving them years back. Maybe if they're in sports and you got a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, and you want them to do good in sports, you damn well better have them working out with you, right? Because that's going to help them build muscle, build neural synapses, brain connections that are going to help you in the future, right? It's going to help them in the now. And so it's just, you know, it's the same thing that we always say, right? If you could take care of yourself, you could take care of others better. But especially if you got others that are relying on you, that's your why. That's not your excuse. That's your why. And just on that note, that's a good way to end it. So if you got kids, you got people that you're relying on, that rely on you, don't make that your excuse of why you can't do it. Make that excuse of, this is why you should do it. And on that note, I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace. All right, everybody. Damn, I didn't even realize I had the screen covered over here on YouTube. I didn't even know if there's anybody in here. Holler at me. And is it YouTube and Facebook? I know I kind of went on a little tangent right there, but you know how it is. You know, we get to go, and I got the natural sunlight beaming into my face right now. I got the ghost over here. It looks like toilet paper in the corner. What are you going to do? But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We kind of go on these rampages. You know, we kind of get a little excited over here. But now I got to go and do my coaching call in 3 minutes. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate everybody. Everybody who's on YouTube, drop a like, drop a follow, a subscribe. However, I forget. I don't even know what the cool kids say anymore. But just make sure you show up and do the show up to the live streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday.